here. We have a delegation this evening. It's Derek Jensen from McElhaney regarding the rezoning application for 335 Anderson Road, which also involves a development permit and variance permit. So, Derek, take the podium. You have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the rezoning development permit, development variance permit applications being introduced tonight represent about 10 months of collaborative effort.
There you go.
Interrogation. Essentially, it is a culmination of about 10 months of effort between the developer, myself, and city staff, planning, engineering, and public works to develop an overall development plan that we collectively, I think, believe that is a win-win for both the town and the developer. We certainly support the information contained within staff's report to council this evening, and I don't think it's appropriate that I just kind of reintroduce that very same information, but as an alternate, maybe touch on a few key highlights of the development for your benefit. So essentially, we're looking at a 31-unit multifamily development in 3- and 4-plex configurations. There's a real attempt on behalf of the developer to assimilate the buildings with the existing, with the neighborhood. That being, through the use of various building materials, gable, timber frames, as well as building face articulation. Site servicing for the development is readily available on Anderton Road through improvement projects or past improvement projects implemented by the town. The approval of the variance permit and the construction of the Wallace Road extension achieves a pedestrian linkage between Anderton Road through to Gladstone, through to the old, I guess it'd be the Comox Elementary site, which is certainly an initiative that will be of benefit to the community. The developer is working, or will continue to work with both Marvin as well as park staff to develop what we believe will be a really beneficial entryway to the Anderton corridor and this walkway through the implementation of a rather extensive landscaping area at the entrance to the site from our Anderton Road. Based on the audience tonight, obviously, we did do an extensive traffic study, and that traffic study, we worked with staff to develop the scope of that traffic study, and essentially it looked at multiple things. It looked at all intersections within proximity to the development for vehicle movement, pedestrian movement, and bicycle movements. The results of which indicate or culminate in a recommendation that the Wallace access is a preferred access to the Anderton access. And that recommendation is based on the technical merits of the analysis, that being the expected traffic flows, where people are walking to and from, and where people are cycling to and from. And those, what it essentially comes down to, or why Wallace is a preferred option, is Wallace is considered or characterized and classified as a local residential road. The purpose of a local residential road is to get people from and to their homes. It's not to get people to and from destinations, so there's a bit of a difference there. Anderton Road is a destination road. It's an arterial road. It's intended to get people from their home to their work, between grocery stores and their work or what have you, right? So much higher volume, much more of a free throw traffic. Limited, the intent is to try and limit the stops and starts. I know on Anderton, for example, the town spent a bunch of money last year in front of, at Anderton at Rob, because what's happening is people are starting, when people want to make a turn, you know, people are driving beside them. So essentially you can get 3 cars across Anderton Road. What further access egress points on Anderton Road would do would encourage that to continue to happen, as well as, given the proximity of the development frontage or the available development frontage to secondary roads such as Buena Vista and or the intersection of Anderton and Comox. The projections of the Anderton-Comox intersection suggest that the stacking distance or the storage distance required up Anderton is going to impinge on the frontage of Anderton, of this property on Anderton Road, such that at that time, access and egress is going to be compromising by the stacking of vehicles at the intersection. So again, given that the intent of Wallace Road is a local residential road to provide access to and from homes, and given that the expected or the anticipated traffic volumes relative to this development in concert with and in addition to those existing residents on Wallace Avenue, the threshold by which it's considered, Wallace being considered a local road to something higher is essentially 1,000 cars a day. So as per the traffic report, you know, the daily movements of traffic in concert with this development, in concert with people already using Wallace, are well below the 1,000 vehicle per day threshold. I can certainly appreciate that right now and you know, for a significant portion of time, Wallace has been essentially a dead-end road through the unconstruction of either a cul-de-sac or an extension out to Anderton Road. And the security and the privacy that affords is certainly a benefit to the homeowners on Wallace. But again, I don't think anyone, given the OCP, the town of Comox zoning bylaw, ever suggested that this was going to be fallow land forever and in the future, and that an extension of Wallace in some fashion would likely occur. And I think, you know, this 31-unit multifamily development does provide a reasonable, you know, addition to the Wallace Road corridor. And like I say, the traffic report is extremely thorough, and its recommendations are based on the technical merits. There's obviously, and council obviously has an opportunity to introduce, you know, the abstracts, so to speak, you know, what people think and how they, safety concerns and that kind of thing. I think we've addressed the technical merits of that, but there's always a perception that tends to get added to the mix, and certainly, you know, well within, and should be, you know, part of the discussion and part of the consideration. Just to wrap up then, the developer did canvass those people that live immediately adjacent to the property near the onset of the project, to gain some perspective, so to speak, as to what their expectations might be. Generally speaking, those folks that lived on Wallace were not necessarily, they seemed to recognize that there wasn't going to be, you know, greenfield land adjacent to them forever. Having said that, they certainly discouraged any connection to Wallace. Those people that backed, I guess it'd be Cook to the north, and those people immediately adjacent on Gladstone, they were more concerned about their viewscapes, and obviously any prospective building may compromise the viewscapes that they've been, you know, able to enjoy since whenever. But, you know, at the same time, they recognize that, you know, development is going to occur as long, and if that development could occur in several smaller pieces as opposed to one block that would, you know, completely, you know, obscure any opportunities for, you know, peekaboo or viewscape opportunities. Thank you, and I certainly welcome any questions.
Questions from members of council? Seeing none this time, I know our planner will make a presentation later in the meeting, so thank you for your
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to minutes of meetings. For approval, we have the council meeting minutes of November 6th.
Move receipt.
Second.
On approval then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. For receipt, the minutes of the committee, the whole meeting held November 13th.
Move.
On receipt then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Two committee recommendations were passed. Firstly, that the bylaw 1761, the beverage rate increase bylaw, before the council for first, second, and third reading.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. And then 2014 utility rate increases bylaw 1760 for sewer, for first, second, and third reading to be discussed tonight.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Page 15, we have the manager report for receipts.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receipt then, all those in favor? Carried. Anything further on the manager report? Yes, Councilor Beck.
Just wanted to comment from the solid waste meeting that we held last Thursday. The board made, approved a motion that the company can come off pilot organic program until such time as the regional facility could be attained. So I think that's good news for our organic program that's just up and started.
Great. All right, we'll update that. Anything further? Seeing none, then we'll move on to special reports at page 17. Report from staff as requested from the last meeting around the options for metered residential water rates. So a motion to receive that report will be in order.
Second.
Just want to receive a report then, all those in favor? Motion carried. Any questions or comments on that report? Go ahead, Councilor. First, the draft, or those going first?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I insist.
Thank you for the report, and I don't have any problem supporting the suggestion in the option 219, which is to reduce the monthly minimum for residential unit billings and increase the amount of water. I think that's probably a reasonable thing to expect. In the concern from the resident, can I speak to the option out?
Sure, I mean, we'll be dealing with that motion shortly.
Okay.
Because it's been referred to this
Okay,
meeting.
well, I'm fine with the option 2 recommendation as it's been presented. I think the people that have been going on the metered rate have done a good job by and large of trying to conserve water in the spirit of which this was intended.
Okay, any go ahead, Councilor.
Just, so we're just receiving this
Well,
report?
receive the report and then the motion could be made based on option 2 if that's what you wish.
And then later, so then we would amend it later, okay.
Yeah.
So, second to that, I'm reading this, I don't really see that this is going to entice very many, if any, people onto our meter program. And, I think we have to keep in mind that we spent, $1 million or $1.5 million on this program, and we've got 189 people signed up and being billed this way. I think that if we think in terms of paying someone to read these meters, some of these meters are almost 4 years old now. I read in a report about a year and a half ago that after about 8 years we have to start replacing them. I don't think we factored that in. I think when it comes time to replace them, I don't know who's going to pay for that. We're going to pay, we're going to send the guy to Dell. I think that the right thing to do here is to go back to the original recommendation that staff made and allow people the opt-out method. And I just don't see this program as being successful, and I don't see this as enticing anybody. And all we're going to do is now put the burden onto somebody else. So I think we have to look at this and say, it didn't work. We should stop spending good money after bad. And I think it's time that we have a look at that and go back to the original recommendation and allow people to opt out if they choose.
Well, we're going to speak to the opt-out one in a moment.
Okay.
That's a separate resolution. I do believe that the financial plan it did build in reserves for replacement of meters, and I don't recall the order of magnitude, but certainly in the range of $1 million. But there is a small amount in the next 2 or 3 years while the gas tax money is available. And staff are looking at metering perhaps some stratas, but or anyone else who asks for a meter. So in terms of, I guess, a motion here, if you want to discuss that, we could put a motion on the floor, either that Councillor Swift had suggested with option 2 or some other motion that Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Leonard go first.
I'll move the recommendation of the staff report.
Okay, so that is option 2 essentially.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Fletcher, you're
And
just
then-
moving, you have a priority there.
Thank you. And then, further to that, the conversation here tonight is not about meters or not meters, it's about the rate that we need to charge for those that are existing in our system. That being said, I support water meters, and I think in the long term, they will become the flavor of the day for water use. But I think, back to the report, I think staff have done a good job. We're doing our best to try and it's a challenging thing, and it's a balance, and we're trying to work out the best rate in order to meet the conservation needs that we want to see from water meters, but also make it palatable and manageable for families and people to use. I would also draw your attention to the CDRD minutes that we're going to receive in a few minutes. The electoral areas have a motion on those minutes. They have water meters in all their areas, and they are looking at a rate of $22.17 per month for 15 cubic meters. So I think what we've offered here is very reasonable and manageable, and I would support it. So thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Gaffney's going to finish.
Yeah, I just think that, I mean, this is an issue that's been ongoing. I know it's of some concern to the public, or has been over the years, and I think that when we only have 4 of us at the table, that we should maybe look at deferring this until we have a larger number of people at our table to discuss this in a more thorough manner. So I would make a recommendation that we defer this till our next regular council meeting.
Okay, referral motion, is there a second?
Well, I'll second.
As to time and place, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is defeated. So the motion to refer has been defeated, so the motion on the floor is printed in the agenda. You know, I would echo Councillor Fletcher's comments that this is to set water rates. We're going to have to deal with this annually, whether it's a flat rate or a meter rate or both. And so I think that, you know, I look at this program as one that has had some modest take-up, not unlike the organics program, which is about a 10% take-up. Not unlike the secondary sweep program, which roughly 1 in 10 houses on a subdivision has had a modest take-up, but it's the right step to move forward and to give people really the option to have, if they have a meter installed, to pay less for what they consume based on their consumption records. And whether this will entice more people, we'll find out, I suppose. And just as an aside, I don't have any particular problem with the opting out aspect of it. I think that's something that might entice more people to come in and try it. So overall, I think we're going to have to tweak this as we go. And as many communities have dealt with this issue on a rates basis, it's always going to be subject to review. So we're talking about 2014 and certainly we support the motion. You ready for the question? Seeing that, all those in favor? Those opposed? One opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you for your discussion. And then the motion that was referred to here has actually been moved and seconded, so it is here for discussion as printed, that residents be given the opportunity of opting out of the voluntary water meter program on a year-by-year basis. And is there any further discussion on that?
I guess I should just speak to it since it was my suggestion. But I really do think that it is in the interest of being fair and reasonable for residents. The vast majority of Comox residents are not being metered, and I think when it doesn't work with people, that we should allow them that same consideration. I believe in water meters. I believe it's a great program. I believe in user pay, but until such time as we have a universal system within our own boundaries, I think it's unreasonable to not allow people to get off it or come onto it if they want.
Yeah, certainly it's optional going in, and I guess, again, what I said earlier is that, looking at this program, I have no problem with talking about it. And certainly when somebody sells a house and if it's metered and they decide that when people coming in for whatever reason don't want to go on the metered rate, they can go back to the flat rate. It might be more suitable for them. They'll have to assess it on an annual basis, and staff will work with residents should this pass. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Alrighty. Regional district meetings for receipt from October 29th.
Move receipt.
Thank you.
Second?
On receipt then, all those in favor? Anything arising out of that? Seeing none, then we'll move on to bylaws. So, based on the amendments that we made this evening, the water rates bylaw amendment 1759 for the 2014 water rates is open for first, second, and third reading. Is there a move for that?
So move that as amended?
Yes. Those amendments will be incorporated.
Second?
Thank you. Any
You
further
better.
discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And opposed, motion's carried. Turning now to bylaw 1760, the sewer user rates bylaw for first, second, and third.
Move.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No update from sewer committee as to changes? No, sorry. Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And bylaw 1761 for the garbage collection bylaw for first, second, and third reading.
Move.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. And then the last bylaw is 1763, the fire prevention regulation bylaw amendment for first, second, and third reading, and that's to do with the additional money for campfire and all that stuff. See, Cape Blazo,
Move.
Second.
Cape Blazo campground, I should say. All those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, thank you for that. Those bylaws then will come up for adoption at the next meeting of the council. New business, we have our presentation now from our planner regarding 335 Anderson Road. So we'll let him set up here and have the floor, Mr. Planner. Thank you.
I just asked a question, please, David.
Certainly.
This is going to be a rezoning, so this will be subject to a public hearing at some
Absolutely.
point, and so people will have an opportunity to speak at the public hearing if they so choose to.
Of course.
Is this the city planner that's speaking?
This is our town planner, yes it is.
So this is for city planning?
Pardon me?
What is, what's that doing?
He's going to make a presentation on the material that's before council tonight. So it's regarding 335 Anderson Road.
So is he hired by the town or by the developer?
No, this is our town planner.
So we pay for him?
Yes, of course. Not nearly enough, you know.
You say too much.
So, application presentation is on is 335 Anderson Road. The rezoning, development permit application, and development variance permit application. A quick orientation. So the larger map, of course, shows the subject property. Accesses Walls Avenue on the west boundary.
Potential
and
access?
Pardon?
Potential access?
It,
Now, I'd ask you not to interrupt. He's doing a presentation. Thank you.
And we have to all be on board with
Sorry,
this?
sorry, the
This is a presentation
presentation is to council,
Council,
Okay,
not,
I see.
Thank you. The also has access onto Anderton, on this area that butts Anderton, because that's a better question, better way to say it. Butts Anderton on this access, and then Wallace on this access. Also want to draw your attention to 2006 Comox Avenue. This is a town-owned piece of property, very linear. It goes from Anderton, and it extends down to Comox Avenue. That will come up later on in the presentation. The official community plan designation is for townhouses and ground-oriented infill. It's within development permit area number 2, ground-oriented infill. proposed rezoning is from R 1.1 single family to a new CD zone for townhouse development. The same slide that the applicant had in the presentation board. So what's being proposed is an extension of Wallace coming through here. This would actually be a road dedication. So it would be a public access way through the subject property, and then would abut at this point with the town-owned property at 206 Comox Avenue. This is based on a overall walkway proposal or a pedestrian corridor proposal for the east side neighborhood of Anderton. Will provide sidewalk access, pedestrian access through the subject property, and then the northern section of the town-owned property would be developed to provide sidewalk access till we reach Anderton Road here. In analyzing the proposed development, took an extensive look at the linkages around the property in terms of not only vehicles but also pedestrians and bicycles. So we have a long history of interest in the town in terms of the pedestrian access allowed to the downtown through Bona Vista. This is a very highly desirable street, of course, with the very mature vegetation. We have the existing crosswalk here at Cook, across Anderton. As you start coming down Anderton Road, you start dropping in elevation. So you start dropping in slope. Of course, you have the Bona Vista intersection right here. And then on the south side of Comox Avenue, we have the existing pedestrian, the town just put in a sidewalk on Beaufort. It's also a bicycle route. And the official community plan has a proposal for a trail linkage from Beaufort Avenue through Comox, so that we can tie in then to Anderton Park. The proposal,
Port Augusta Park.
oh sorry, Port Augusta Park. So what the proposal would do, the concept is to create a similar to Bona Vista access for this neighborhood, this residential neighborhood. To the east of Anderton, to tie into, we have the existing sidewalk that was done probably about 8 years ago on the one side of Aiken Road. So it's our major north-south connector. We have the existing sidewalk on the south side of Downey. The idea was to be able to bring these, provide a safe avenue down, connecting to Downey. Here we have a bit of a slope, but we don't have any significant slopes, so we're really trying to take a look at the aging population and people in general. They want to take the least difficult route. The intent would then be, as part of the redevelopment of the Comox school site, to get statutory right-of-way from Rodello through the school site and then pick up again on Wallace, and then provide sidewalk access as part of reconstruction of Wallace Avenue into the development, and then
How do we, like,
Now,
I mean.
sorry, the questions will be coming from council. You have an opportunity to ask the planner after the meeting if
I
you wish.
see.
the intent there would be to occur in 3 phases. First phase, this is off a little bit. So the first phase, part of the development would see the extension of Wallace, the sidewalk connection, and the sidewalk connection up to Anderton. Time of construction here, the town would upgrade Wallace Avenue in terms of providing new pavement and providing a sidewalk on the south side. There's no sidewalk currently. And then as part of future redevelopment or negotiations with School District 71 would be to have the sidewalk on the south side of Wallace, and then a pathway or some other form of pedestrian connection through the school district site to Rodello. Part of your information package, the town did receive a petition from neighborhood residents concerned about traffic in the area. The town did require a traffic study by a professional engineer to address a number of questions, and including a copy of the petition was given to the traffic engineer, and we were told to address those issues as well. So specifically, it was to address the traffic impact of proposed developments, additional 31 townhouse units. Look at that in terms of vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian network and safety, and also in terms of the current conditions and conditions anticipated in the official community plan over the next 20 years. We're specifically tasked with providing a firm recommendation regarding the access to the proposed development. The results of that traffic study indicates that the roads and intersections will largely continue to function at acceptable levels of service, with both the anticipated traffic growth in the proposed development and the anticipated general growth of the community over a 20-year period. Finds the proposed development will not pose a safety issue for traffic to and from the school. That was an item that was mentioned in the petition. And recommends Wallace Avenue as the access to the proposed development, and does not recommend an additional access to Anderton Road. The traffic report is, you'll find that in your package. There is actually a breakdown on page 111 of your agenda package that gives you the pros and cons for both the Wallace and the Anderton Road access points, and the final conclusion is on page 114 of your agenda. And with that, we invite council.
Okay, questions at this time from members of council? Yes.
Martin, the school district didn't have any problem with traffic.
No.
We asked, we sent a letter to them in referral, and they actually didn't respond and said they had no problems. Is that
Correct.
right?
Question I have is related to a couple of the more technical requirements around the affordable housing contribution. I know I talked to you earlier this afternoon how it was calculated, so maybe for the benefit of council, you can just explain how that calculation is done and when it's payable. And then the second one relates to the acoustical reporting, the requirements in that regard.
Certainly. In terms of the affordable housing contribution, that was modeled on the longest standing programs which we saw start up in Vancouver and Victoria, and those have been adopted by numerous municipalities from the province. What we found was the press releases, when you see things like Falls Creek and it says that part of this development created 100 affordable housing units, is a little bit misleading. What it was is they've got, the city of Vancouver, Victoria would get land, and the land, as part of the development process, would be zoned for those units. They would then take that land that would be gifted to the local government. They would take that and then apply to the province under the nonprofit programs for funding to construct the actual units. So it became very clear that it was a breakdown on the land contribution as opposed to actually building the buildings themselves. Historically, that percentage in terms of the development that was then targeted for affordable housing was 10%. That's recently been increased to 15% in Victoria and Vancouver. But those are sort of leaders in that area. So in terms of analyzing the development, we take a look at it and we say how many units are being proposed. We take 10% of that. So in this case, we have 4 units as 10%. Then we take a look at the land area required for the building footprint and parking. So we take a look at, and it's based on the unit size, not the proposed development, but the unit size of a nonprofit, an eligible nonprofit development. We're very careful. We want to make sure that the developer who chooses to, and of course, the council's decision to provide land or cash in lieu is treated identically. So in terms of, we get a number of square meters of parcel area, and then we get the assessed value of that land based on prior to rezoning, but with all adjacent streets constructed. So in some cases, you have some lots that are adjacent to the existing street that's not constructed, and the value is reduced because of that. No on-site services. So in that way, we're not calculating the lift through any rezoning, so it's equal between the two developer options. That is secured through a phased development agreement, which provides us a strong legal mechanism to require that. Under the phased development agreement, in accordance with past practice, that contribution is required 30 days after the rezoning bylaw adoption, on the premise that the benefit provided the developer is the lift in land value due to proposed development. So once that lift is provided, that benefit is provided, that the community then should get the amenity, i.e. the affordable housing contribution, as opposed to waiting for some time in the future.
Okay, and that's consistent with what we've done with other
And
developments.
that's consistent with what we've done with other developments.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, finish, go ahead.
I was gonna start on the acoustics.
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead, I forgot you were on there, but go ahead.
In regards to acoustics, been considerable concern over the years on the town in terms of noise levels from traffic and building units close to a street. A previous official community plan required actually a 12-meter setback along Comox Avenue for apartments, and that's why you see these great areas of lawn in front. As part of sustainability and getting better utilization of land, took a look at the actual issue, i.e. the acoustics. And what we've been doing now for quite some time is requiring, anytime that you're adjacent to a major street, requiring an acoustical engineer to take a look at the development to assess in relation to Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation guidelines for sound levels inside the building. What, given the interior location of the different uses and the siting is going to be the sound level. And then that acoustical engineer will then provide recommendations how, if it exceeds CMHC guidelines, how to bring it down to meet CMHC guidelines. In past practice, that has consisted of insulation along exterior walls. And windows aren't really that big of an issue. It's the window pane. So just because you have windows doesn't mean you can't meet the standards. It's the separation between the window pane. In one area, 221 Glacier View, we had something else come in. That proposal showed bedrooms adjacent to Comox Avenue. So the acoustical engineer then said, well, okay, in terms of ventilation, for example, on a hot evening, it wasn't in accordance with CMHC guidelines, then require somebody to be able to open the window, and then all of a sudden you've got the noise coming in the evening. So that bedroom unit was then required to have an alternative source of ventilation, which the developer was proposing to do through a heat pump. Area service with heat pumps.
Councilor Grant.
Yeah, my question is to do with the process from here. We've got people here tonight that are obviously quite interested in the process and how this works, and our recommendation here is a little bit different than we would normally see. Could you just explain the process as we go first, second, third reading? We're taking this to advisory planning and then public hearing, just so everybody knows where we stand with all this.
Standard process will be the next step will be to refer to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation to council. In this case, we have an additional recommendation, namely the use of the town's property. This walkway is something that was developed by staff in specific looking at that neighborhood. And so it's not come before council before, it's dealing with council property. So we're trying to find out if council is comfortable proceeding with considering of the development on the basis of that walkway, because not only affects this development, but it also has capital cost implications for the town's financial plan in terms of that sidewalk extension. Following, if council were to refer to the Advisory Planning Commission, there would be a recommendation coming forward to council. Bylaws would then be introduced for first and second reading. If those bylaws were given first and second reading, we'd have a notification for public hearing that would take place. Public hearing would then occur, and following public hearing, the council can then consider third and fourth reading.
Okay, thank you. And a rough time frame, I know it varies, but in terms of when you would see this potentially coming to a public hearing of council, when? First and second?
We've got the Christmas, so we'd be looking at probably coming back out of the APC in January with a public hearing late February, early March.
I know somebody had their hand up. There is a point in the agenda later on where people who are here can ask questions related to a subject matter on the agenda. And certainly the planning department, the planner and staff would be willing to discuss any of the details with the questions that may be posed. The purpose of tonight's presentation to council is to get council to make some decisions at a very preliminary basis to move this forward to the next step. So again, there's an opportunity to ask questions either at the end of this meeting or certainly after the meeting further. All right, so as you heard the planner, he's looking for some direction from council. Firstly, around the use of the northern portion of 2006 12 Bucks Avenue for a public pedestrian connection, and then your path to Parkers.
Is that recommendation?
That is recommendation.
I will move that.
Second?
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And just to be clear again, that's just meaning that that will be included in the application. It doesn't mean it actually will happen until such time as the rezoning occurs. And the second recommendation is that upon submission and park superintendent review of additional information for landscape plan as noted in the outstanding item schedule in this planning report, the application is then be referred for comment to the town of Comox Advisory Plan.
I'll move that recommendation.
Second?
Moved and seconded, and all in favor? Motion's carried. Alrighty, so we'll move on to correspondence. We have two items, page 145. We have a referral here from the Passenger Transportation Board seeking any comments that we may wish to make or not regarding a proposal by Ambassador Shell Service to provide a taxi service. So this is very similar in some ways to the liquor board when a license application is made and we can choose to make comment or not. And otherwise we would just receive the letter.
I move receipt.
Second for that?
Oh, second?
Yeah. Any discussion on the receipt? Well, we'll receive it first. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Councilor Fletcher?
And the town, I would make a motion that the town contact the passenger transportation board and indicate that we support the application by Ambassador Shell.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
I know that this issue has been somewhat contentious in the past, and I kind of hesitate to do that in that I know that the taxi services are an interesting mix of how it works. I know that the taxi service, Comox Taxi, that we currently have is running a different type of service, and I have a feeling that this could become a little bit contentious as it has in the past. And I would think that possibly the best thing to do would be to just receive this and allow the board or whoever it is that makes these decisions make their decision.
Thank you for those comments. Any further comments? Yes, ultimately it is the Passenger Transportation Board that would consider submissions from whoever, and I guess involving local government should be specific to be involved.
I guess for me, it's a little bit like we're picking one business over another, and I don't know that we should be seen as doing that. That's my take on it.
Councilor Fletcher?
Certainly by supporting this application, I don't feel that I'm picking one business over the other. This application is before us, and I feel like any opportunity that we can support local business and support the initiative, just think it's an opportunity that I'm happy to support.
All right, so you ready for the question? All those in favor? Those opposed? One opposed, motion's carried. All right, and the late item of correspondence was a letter that we received, an email this week regarding the big truck parade, and it's happening on December 1st. So brought to this meeting because we wanted to meet as a council before then. So
We receive that we grant the, whatever they're looking for? Their request.
their request, their permission to pass it. Moved and seconded then, and Councilor Fletcher?
Just a question, there was no indication of time, and that's not going to impact my decision, but I'd certainly like the community to know
believe it's evening because then the lights are more visible.
Yeah.
Move it in the morning.
I don't know what time.
I think.
There's a lot of evening in our
Yeah,
days.
well, it'll probably start in Cumberland sometime around 5 and then make its way through here. I don't know in the past, if anyone knows when it comes through town, it's, you see people gathering around 6 or 7 and sometimes it's not here till 8.
Perhaps they could advise us when they advise them.
I actually thought they ran the booth more than once too, so maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
And your,
I think it came around 7:20 last
Okay.
year. So I was waiting to
Because you
see.
were there.
well, perhaps there'll be some stuff in the local media.
I think 7:30 is what they're saying, but.
Okay.
And on phone.
Thank you.
Ish.
Ish.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor? Okay. Reports then from members of council. Councilor Swift.
Well, I enjoyed several weeks out of the country, having holidays, so I haven't done a lot, but since I've been in, I did attend the Remembrance Day parade and ceremony, and the sewer meeting yesterday.
All right, thank you, Councilor Fletcher.
Thank you. Since we last met, on November 7th, I attended both the regional solid waste committee meeting and the regional hospital board meetings in Campbell River. Again, as I reported earlier, I was pleased that the motion to continue our organics pilot program was passed. On November 11th, I attended our Comox Remembrance Day service, committee of the whole last week. Last Saturday, there was the BIA tree light up with Santa Claus and Santa Mare. And that was great to see the tree light up and little characters there. Yesterday, we had the Comox Valley Regional District, we had a water meeting, a sewer meeting, and a committee of the whole meeting. One motion of note from the committee of the whole was that the Comox Valley Regional District has approved the launch of a Comox Valley carbon marketplace, as we had received a report a couple months ago about that initiative in Cowichan Valley. So the regional district is going to take that on, and so all things being well, we should be able to purchase our offsets on a local homegrown initiative through that organization. So that's my report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And you probably saw that the Pacific Carbon Trust is being on that.
Oh.
It's one of the provincial initiatives
They're moving it.
under the core review. All right, so we'll see what happens there by the time we make our next contributions. Councilor Grant.
So I attended the tree light up, and they had a bunch of food services, the BIA and the rec center sort of got together on that, and the mall was absolutely packed. It was kind of good to see, actually. You don't see that many people in the mall that often, so that was good. I also attended an economic development executive meeting and an economic development board meeting. I attended yesterday's sewer committee meeting, water committee meeting. I had several meetings with our Gateway Sign as we organize, and we're getting ready for our launch on December the 3rd of our program, and we'll be looking for money, so be ready with your wallets. And I also attended the Regional District Committee of the Whole meeting, and unfortunately I was unable to attend the Remembrance Day service this year, so I regret missing that, but that's my report.
Great, thanks. I attended Remembrance Day service here, the Legion reception and the reception at the base as well. I also had a meeting with representatives from Harbour Air and the Harbour Authority as well as our CAO regarding the propane service and moves toward improving that. The Christmas tree lighting is mentioned. I also represented the town at the Navy League annual general meeting and dinner for its 70th anniversary. The Navy League is the organization overall that's responsible for Sea Cadets and Navy League cadets as well as advocacy. And they had their meeting here this year in celebration of the 70th anniversary for the local organization. And then last night attended a dinner and then check presentation for the Mayor's Golf Tournament. Pleased to announce that roughly $30,000 net was achieved out of that. About a third of that going to North Island College Foundation for its bursary program. A third going towards the Estuary Park proposal over in Courtney in terms of design and consultation, and then the balance will be distributed amongst various agencies with a focus on 19 wing and the airport. So that's a nice conclusion to that event, which is now running 5 years altogether. I think overall they've contributed about 55,000 towards the North End College Foundations. And other organizations have shared the benefits of that. So, media questions at this time? Members of the public, any questions? Don Davis?
Thank you, Worship. Don Davis from 1852 Buena Vista. I'm not quite certain that I could see in the report on the water meter rate the impact, what if they, when you put the changes to the meter rate, how does that impact on the other users that are on the flat rate? And another question would be, if all the people on the metered rate that aren't benefiting from it opted out, where would that financial burden be put?
Well, I don't believe we're making any changes to the flat rate. To hopefully answer the first question. Flat rate's staying the same for.
And then how does the change in the rate, in the metered rate, impact on the budget?
I think the CEO can speak to that.
The change was a few thousand, it was around $5,000, and the Director of Finance refers that that shortfall, if you want to call it, can be easily addressed by reducing the transfer to the water reserve.
And if everyone that isn't benefiting opted out, how would that impact on the?
Well, they'd all pay a flat rate, correct?
Okay.
So I think it's in that order of magnitude at most. And again, it's speculative at this point.
So it is absorbable within the confines of the system.
Total budget for that is in the range of 1.8 annually. Thank you for that. Any further questions? Seeing none, we do have a brief in-camera meeting, so the provisions of the Open Government Act Community Charter, we will adjourn to in-camera once the room is clear. So, to adjourn.